Jim, is about Ed Miliband saying he wants to pass a new law, and once again I refer you to through the prism of the general election. I will pass new law to guarantee debates. What does he mean by that?
Well, he wants to ensure that the TV debates become constitutionally enshrined somehow, which probably involves setting up some independent body that will have the right to require and set the terms. I mean, basically, the detail doesn't really matter. It's just his attempt to keep up the pressure on David Cameron's team, who are still doing their best to weasel their way out of any sort of debate whatsoever.
Not quite true.
Well, they are willing to take on one debate at the end of the month with 7 parties, which, given that the broadcasters have been proposing this sort of the opposite for some time now, I don't think that the Downing Street team would be too upset if nothing came of it. But yeah, no, Ed Miliband's plan to sort of make them a permanent fixture in British politics would be interesting to see whether, if he's in a position of power, were he to win the election, whether he's still as keen on them in a couple of years' time. It could get quietly dropped.
I think that's a very good point, because as we know, Cameron was very keen on TV debates. I mean, it was partly the TV debate that propelled him to become leader of the Tories when he completely vanquished David Davis, and he actually performs quite well in them. He reckons he's got far more to lose. Adam Bolton in the Sunday Times today is actually very good on the specifics. He says that the Tories, in order to, they reckon they need to win another 23 more seats to get a majority, which means that they've got to get 11,200 specific people to switch to the Conservatives. So if they go on TV and they do the debates, they reckon they'll hit 22 million, but they don't need to hit those 22 million. They're targeting these 11,000. And they reckon the bigger risk and the fillip it'll give Ed Miliband and the bounce he did a huge amount for Nick Clegg last time, it's just not worth their while. So this is pure strategy. I don't think this is about Cameron being frit. I think this is about Cameron being strategic and being told by Linton Crosby that it doesn't serve his interests. But I think there's a bigger point here, which is this whole thing around debates about debates massively turns off the public.
Yeah, it's just a big media kind of navel gaze.
It's absolute rubbish. It makes me furious. There's so many important things going on out there. The fact that the Observer's front page is something about election debates, same with the Independent on Sunday. It just looks like the media's just disappeared up its own fundament.
Well, hold on. Pause at that moment. Let's introduce the Independent on Sunday. Lest we had enough on debates. There we go. Cameron to get his own TV show. Jim, this is not, David Cameron having a weekly, chat show. This is...
He has that anyway at Prime Minister's Questions.
Which, Eleanor, may well be at some point in the future. Yeah. We might get to that. But this is about balance, isn't it? Which, I wonder, does this work in his favour? Broadly, this is him, the suggestion that the BBC, in order to retain impartiality, would have to give him an elongated one-on-one interview if he decides not to join in with the other debates.
Yeah, sort of Parkinson, but with Cameron coming back, sort of a sofa and some pleasant chat with the PM. No, but the idea is that because the broadcasters, if he doesn't turn up to the debates, it's all about, do they blink and do they have an empty podium with sort of a sign saying David Cameron not present? Or do they sort of not mock the office of Prime Minister and then have a separate show for him? Personally, I think there'd be a pretty strong case for just, we gave you the invite, everyone else has turned up, here's an empty podium, go for it. But we all know the angst and the internal discussions at broadcasters whenever they make any call because of these strict impartiality rules we have. So even though he might have chosen to not turn up to any debate of his own accord, there would still be a lot of TV execs freaking out that they'd breached some rules somewhere and would be arguing with Downing Street for months to come if they didn't give equal coverage somewhere.
But would he rather have a one-on-one interview, or would he rather be part of a debate?
I think it's good to see them all kind of tear chunks out of each other. I think that's quite good sport. But I just think that the country is sick of them talking about the debates rather than talking about the issues.
Right, well, let's move on to something else then.
Yeah.
And a pretty significant one. This is on the front of your paper, Eleanor. Yep. Osborne, 27, or Osborne tax bonanza, I should say, for 27 million voters. What have you dug up with?
Yeah, no, I've got it here. So this is basically a pre-budget leak, which is saying that Osborne, we've known, is going to have some kind of carrot for the electorate before the budget, and he's going to lift 27 million voters out of income tax. So you won't have to pay any tax until you pay 11,000 quid, and that's an increase on what they were going to do before. They were going to do about 10.5. So it looks like it'll be bigger, which will be like an extra £200 in your pocket for a large number of voters, which I think they think is going to be good voter voter encouragement to vote kind of Conservative or for the coalition. And also this has the stamps of the Lib Dems on it too, because of course it's the Lib Dem policy to lift as many people as possible out of tax as a way of helping the poor. And they're also going to introduce what they call a Google tax crackdown, which is to try and make Google, Amazon, those massive companies that make fortunes here and then take all their profits offshore. They're going to slap a 25% tax on them on sales which have been made in the UK.
Which is all good vote-winning stuff, isn't it, Jim? We all like to have more money in our pocket, and we all like to see big multinational companies paying more tax. The evidence suggests that taxing big multinational companies ain't that easy.
It's never easy, and if you look at the amount of payments, if you look at your credit card bill or something like that, if you're shopping online, the amount of them that have gone through Luxembourg or somewhere like that is quite noticeable. The other one on this story, of course, as Eleanor mentioned, is that it was Lib Dem policy to raise the income tax threshold, and the Tories have pretty much taken ownership of it. There's footage from the 2010 debates of David Cameron looking down the camera and saying, we can't afford to do this. And now we've got complete ownership of the policy by George Osborne, who's pretty canny at these things and has seen a good policy, taken it on board and made it his own.
Because it does cost a lot of money. This is big bills.
And it doesn't necessarily always help the people at the very bottom of society, because these tax cuts go for everyone. They go for, whether you're earning 100k or whether you're earning 50k, whether you're earning 20k. So you still get the benefit, even if you're on pretty stonkingly big salaries.
Yeah, although if you are, to be fair, if you are earning a very small salary, you could be lifted entirely out of income tax.
You're lifted entirely out of income tax. So they're saying it pays to go to work, which is an absolutely key Tory message, that if you go out to work, you'll be better off than if you don't. And I think it's right to let people keep more of their own money.
Now, on another spectrum entirely, on the other side of the front page of the Sunday Times, is a picture of somebody dressed in a astronaut outfit. Jim, who is this person?
Well, this is Sarah Brightman, who's a singer and sometime wife of Andrew Lloyd Webber, who is blasting herself into space, thanks to the Russians, and 35 million, I think, was the figure that she's paying to do this.
Yeah.
I think she's just got to the point where she looked at her bank balance at the end of the month, paid the rent, paid the bills, and just went, you know what, I'll just spend that money on going into space.
I have literally got more money than I know what to do with.
Well, in the interview, we got a big interview with her in the news review, and in that she talks about how she'd bought a massive apartment, huge penthouse in New York, and she'd completely forgotten about it. So she was sitting...
Whoa, she forgot?
She forgot.
Owning a penthouse
She's
in New
so
York.
rich, because she's absolutely massive in the Far East and the Middle East. She's apparently sold 30 million records. I mean, I'd kind of completely forgotten about her, but in the rest of the world, she is huge, and she told our interviewer that she was sitting in a hotel with a friend, and then she suddenly thought, oh, hang on, I bought an apartment online in New York, as you do.
Late
night evening, she just had a few to drink.
She'd gone through BuzzFeed.
Exactly.
What should I do next?
She did a virtual tour, bought the apartment, and then completely forgot about it. I mean, to be that rich.
We've all done it.
I'm not